What's up? We got another project. I'm about to do a valve adjustment on the Integra. It should be the same way for a B16 or a B18C type R. I've never done it before, but I'm not afraid. So we go learn together. Let's get this party started. It's gonna be my helper right here. It's gonna be Spider-Man Enter the Universe or whatever that thing called. Say what's up, Spider-Man? What's up, dope? So as you can see, I already took off some of the screws around the valve cover. So just go ahead and remove the screws around the valve cover. You got to take these 4 off the center to get the spark plug cover off, and then there's gonna be 4 more on the inside. So let's do that. Alright, so I got all the bolts off. It should be 10 millimeter all the way around, but once you pull that cover off, you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it should lift right up. So we'll go ahead and pull this bad boy up and see what we got underneath. Start adjusting some valve. Alright, so we got the valve cover off. I took out the #1 spark plug and I put a long screwdriver in it just to see if it's on top dead center. You can put a screwdriver or anything that'll fit in there without actually falling in and getting lost. You can put a hanger, whatever you got, that'll work. And you want that #1 cylinder, which is this is #1 with the spark plug in it, all the way at the top. What that do, it take the pressure off the intake and the exhaust valve, which are the ones you're going to be adjusting to get it to top dead center. Just get that cylinder, go all the way up. And if you look on the side over here, probably too dark, but yeah, there we go. Alright, top dead center is this notch or line all by itself. So get this line to this timing mark on the timing cover and make sure the cylinder is all the way at the top and you're in top dead center. Top dead center. So what we're going to do is adjust just as the exhaust valves on cylinder #1. You know it's the exhaust because it's facing the exhaust. The intake valve is on the intake side. It's those two right there. You know they're the intake because they facing the intake manifold. So let's get to adjusting. Let me find out the specs. Alright, here we go. So what you want to do is, first of all, it'll make your life a whole lot easier if you buy this tool. It's called a jam nut remover, or but power built. Yeah, jam nut adjustment tool by Power Built. Get the 10 millimeter one if you have VTEC, B16, B18, C1, C5. For the B20s and regular B18 LS, I believe it's a 12 instead of a 10 millimeter. So you want to get this tool, and the thing is, this tool, it comes at the end, it's a 12 millimeter in there, so it goes right over the actual jam nut that's down in there. Pretty dark. There we go. That nut is a 10 millimeter, but also you need a flathead screwdriver to adjust it. So this tool, it comes in one. It's a 10 millimeter at the end. Also, there's a flathead screwdriver made into it, and let's see, you could just push it through, and at the end there's an opening, so you can see. You put the flathead screwdriver, come on, there we go. You put the flathead screwdriver on the adjusting part and just turn. So let's try to do this with one hand. I already adjusted it because it's hard to try to adjust it and do it and hold the camera. I don't have a camera tripod or anything, so as you can see, this will fit over that 10 millimeter, and then watch the screwdriver come down. See, that's the screwdriver. It'll fit in there, and you break the nut loose, and then with the screwdriver you can adjust it. Like I said, I already adjusted it. That's how you break it loose and adjust it. Now what you want to do is, for the exhaust, you want it at an 8. This is the correct one here. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. You want the exhaust at an 8. And the way you want it, minimum resistance. You don't want it to slide too free. You just want minimum resistance. And the way I adjust it, I'll go right in between the cam and that flat part. And as you can see, it can go in with the 8. It slides in. It has minimum resistance for that one. Don't worry about the center. That's VTEC lobe. You don't need to adjust that. So once again, there we go. I go right in between the cam and the this flat ledge right there. See how the 8 fits in there and come out with minimal adjustment. Some people go also, I'm sorry about that, you can adjust by going on top of the actual valve, but you know, oh my goodness, it's horrible. I can't adjust. I'm gonna just lay it, but that's deeper in there. If you try to get it on top of the valve and go under the actual adjuster and all that, that's deep in there. You can do it this way. It'll be a lot easier. Eric the car guy agree. If you watch his channel, he's a great mechanic. I learned a lot of tips from him. So you see how the 8 fits in there, minimal adjustment. Afterwards, just to make sure it's not too much slack, try the next number, a 9. And make sure this 9 can't go in. Because if this 9 can go in also, it's too much slack. You see how the 9 is bending? It don't want to go in. That's good. Then you try it over here. Make sure that 9 don't go in. See how it's bending? But if you put the 8, yeah, man, this is harder than I thought. Sorry about that. There we go. Put that 8 in there, how it slides in and out. Put the 8 in here, slides in and out. That's good. This one has been adjusted. The exhaust side on cylinder number 1 is good. Now it's time to move to the rear and adjust the intake side. And that one's going to be a 7. 8 is for the exhaust and 7 is for the intake. So let's try to check that one and get it done. Alright, so after you adjust the rear, which is the intake side, you want to make it to where a 7 fit and an 8 won't. And you'll be done with cylinder number 1. The next one will be cylinder number 3. And what you will have to do is top dead center. I already did it to cylinder number 3, but this was at the top here for cylinder number 1, top dead center. All you have to do is rotate it counterclockwise 180 degrees to where this, I should have left it alone, but I kind of want to step ahead. Remember, this was at the top. 180 degrees counterclockwise. We'll put this now facing the front of the car. And then once you get both of these lined up facing the front of the car, you can adjust cylinder number 3. And remember, I don't know if you know the firing order, but in case you don't, cylinder number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So to where we have the timing marks now, it'll be ready for cylinder number 3. And as you can see, these are the lobes from the cam. They're facing up. They don't have pressure on the valves right now, so all the valves are closed, and that's how you're able to adjust it. And remember, you don't necessarily have to adjust both of them. Find out which one is the closest, and just per se, if that's the closest, leave that one alone. If that one's a little off, fix that one. Get this one as close as that one, or vice versa. You don't necessarily have to adjust both of them. If they're, you know, if one is right and one's not, fix the one that's not. And same thing for the intake side. Remember, the front, you want it at an 8, and you shouldn't get a 9 in it. The back, you want it at a 7, and you shouldn't get an 8 in it. So you'll go cylinder number 1, cylinder number 3, and I'll show you what cylinder is next. Alright, after you adjust cylinder number 3, just for a recap, you want to adjust the exhaust. You want to go 8 and make sure a 9 doesn't get in the rear. You want to go 7, make sure 8 doesn't get in, and that's cylinder number 3. Then you'll come back to the crank pulley and you want to rotate it another 180 degrees. So remember, I already did it. Once again, I probably should have waited, but this is my arrow mark. Remember, this right here, this markings here was facing to the front of the car. So I rotated it counterclockwise 180 degrees, and now both of them are facing down towards the ground. So I went from arrows, where if you have stock cam gears, it'll say up. I went to just say if it's stock, this will say that right there. That would say up. Remember, it was facing over here to the front of the car. Now you want the up to be facing down. To get it up, facing down. So now that's another 180 degrees. You're in the next cylinder, and that'll be cylinder number 4. And a quick way to know what cylinder to do, if you could see, cams have lobes, and if you see here, you probably can't tell with the camera, but these are the lobes on the cam, and they're facing up, meaning there's no pressure on these valves anymore, so they're closed. So once you crank it 180 degrees, look for whichever cylinder the lobe is facing up. If you can see these, they're not facing up. That one's not facing up. These are facing down. You can see it's pressing on the valve. You can see how it's uneven. It's actually pressing on it. And this one is facing up. And see how they're all even straight across? There's no pressure on them. So now you're going to adjust cylinder number 4. Same thing. You want 8 in the front, and you want it to where you're not able to get a 9 in at all. In the rear, you want 7, and you want to make it to where you can't get an 8 in. So let me adjust these, and obviously the next cylinder is going to be cylinder number 2, I believe, because we already did 1, 3, this is 4, and then it's going to go 2. So let me adjust cylinder number 4. Alright, I finally got cylinder number 4 done. Now, I haven't rotated the crank pulley, so we're going to do it this time. Alright, so right now the up is facing down. Remember when we first started off, it was at the top. So that's 1 cylinder. Then it went to the front, that's 2 cylinder. Then it went down, that's 3 cylinder. Not particularly the 3rd cylinder, but I'm just telling you, you adjust one of the cylinders when it was at the top, you adjust another one when it was facing the front, you adjust another one when it's facing down. So obviously the last one is going to be facing towards the rear of the car. So let's rotate the crank pulley counterclockwise until this, like I say, on the stock cam gear, it'll just say up. Mine have degrees on it, so don't worry about it, but we want this facing the center, how these are. So let's do that. Alright, so it's now facing the center right here. It was down here, 180 degrees, facing here. And we're gonna adjust cylinder number 2. As you can see, the lobes on cylinder number 2 is facing up, which is good. Takes the pressure off the valves, like I stated before. So we're gonna do the intake and exhaust, and afterwards we're gonna torque these screws down, make sure they're tight enough, and take it from there. So let's get started. Alright, so I finished adjusting cylinder number 2, and just for show, this is a 8. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. I can't see. Alright, so oh boy, camera all over the place, but as you can see, the 8 goes in one side, goes in the other side, free play. It has a little resistance, a little bit is fine. You just don't want to be fighting with it. And then a 9, it doesn't go in, so that's good. You want 8 in the front, the exhaust. You don't want 9 to go in. And on the rear, you want, sorry about that, let me get my tools out. You want 7 in the rear, and you don't want 8 to go in. So, let me back that up. There we go. So you got 7 in the rear, which is the intake side. 7 goes in, and then this is number, sorry about that, let me get my 8 out. All right, come on, camera. All right, this is number 8. Camera won't focus, but just make sure that the 8 doesn't go in. And as you can see, it's hidden. You don't want to go over here. You don't want to go. All right, so that completes the valve adjustment. All you have to do is go through and torque them down to spec. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do the how can I say, the adjustment order again and torque them down to spec. And the reason I'm going back to the adjustment order, just to make sure after I torque them, it don't move the adjustments that I did, because I'm pretty sure if you tried this yourself, when you go to tighten this nut back down, sometimes it'll throw off the actual adjustment that you just made, so you kind of going back and forth. But what I learned to do, don't loosen this nut like all the way up to the point where it's just real loose and floppy, because it make your life a whole lot harder. Just loosen it to where it's loose enough to where you can adjust this. And then when you go to put that adjustment tool on there, it doesn't move that nut and also move the adjustment center part. So just unloosen this nut tight enough to where you can make your adjustments, but not sloppy loose to where it's just loose and could be moved easily. Because I noticed when I went to put that adjustment tool on some of them, just placing it over it will move it, and then I gotta go back and readjust it. So just a little tip about that. And let me check and see what's the torque specs on these valves, and I get back at you. Alright, so after doing some research, I found out that you torque the actual nut to 14 foot-pounds. So after you set the adjustment and torque it down, it's 14 foot-pounds. I kind of get it the hard way. I adjusted them, then I went back and torqued them down. It's best to, after you adjust it, then torque it down. You be done with that cylinder completely. You ain't got to go back to it. So I recommend adjusting it, then torque it down to the right torque spec, and be done with it. So that concludes the valve adjustment for a GSR B18C1. It also worked for a B16 and a what's that, B18C5, which is the Type R. So if you like the video, if it was helpful, get back at me, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. God bless.